Well, and see,
Am I still present, maybe, in the airport?
Call this meeting to order.
Get back to him then.
We have the rowdy crowd tonight, I guess. All right, at this time we have time for any citizen or public comments. If anybody has anything to comment on that's not on the agenda tonight, this will be your time. If not, I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. We'll have a consideration of the approval of the agenda.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Next, we have consideration of the approval of the minutes of the May 7th meeting. I'm good.
So move.
Second.
Any questions on the minutes? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Next up is approval of the consent calendar. Any questions on the consent calendar?
Oh, it's a move, Your Honor.
Second.
Motion second for the approval of the consent calendar. The clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
All right, moving on then to the business of the mayor. I see we have several proclamations tonight. Why don't we have who's ever here for Poppy Day come up for Mary and introduce yourself and yourselves.
Plural.
Good evening. I'm Mary Mooberry, and this is,
Kendra McDonald.
and we're representing the American Legion Auxiliary, and we come to ask the City Council if you would proclaim Friday, May 25th as Poppy Day here in Charles City.
Any further questions for Mary?
How many years have you done this, Mary?
Many.
Good answer.
I've been around for at least 12, and you've been here every year of those 12.
Yes, it's a wonderful cause, and
Yeah.
and we're very fortunate. Everybody is very, very generous, so
Yeah. Thank you very much for doing this.
you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, we'll have all three presented, and then we'll vote on them, and I'll be down and read the proclamations then.
Thank you.
Next up is Memorial Day. Art, would you like to give us a little update?
Yes, I'd be glad to.
Well, or we can both come up.
Well, as you probably know, my name is Art White, and I'm involved with Memorial Day. Something I'd like to tell you. You asked if we had anything today. April 17th, I was at a Veterans Memorial. My particular job is to present the American flag. We went out up there to pick up the bugle. You may or may not know, the bugle came up missing, which was not very good. Taking a bugle from our veterans, we didn't think that was very good. But as good as it turned out, the bugle showed up. And now we can use that again, thanks to the police force.
They
And,
steal it or they recovered it?
well, we always wish to thank those who helped. I don't mean to carry on about it, but that it's part of our veterans. And we have work that we do for our veterans. I don't mean to carry on, but that was part of it. And I wanted to let you know that it was recruited. And thanks for the people that recovered it. Thank you. Now, Memorial Day is kind of a special day, like all days are special days. But on Memorial Day, Monday, May 28th, is when all the families, my wife and I just came from the cemetery this afternoon. It's amazing the number of flowers and things that you see in the cemeteries and the flags that are flowing. And as we drove through there, Mary's parents are buried there, and it's always nice for us to go there and put some flowers on the grave. And we think it's kind of nice for Memorial Day. All you need to do is drive through all these cemeteries, and you'll see more flowers and things that families have done. Now, my purpose here is to ask the committees to allow us this road out in front here. We don't want to cover the whole road, but just the road next to the courthouse. The reason we ask for that, we're hoping that we'll have a good crowd, weather permitting. And the reason we're asking that, we may have some elderly people who would like to come to the Memorial Day. And our feeling is that the elderly people want to come, but sometimes it's hard for them to get. So if we could just close that one area home, the family could bring the elderly people up there so that they could partake in Memorial Day. And we are asking the committee to give us permission to shut off that one lane next to the courthouse. And that's why I'm here, to ask your permission from the Court Street up this Main Street, this one lane. I've asked Mr. Anderson if he would okay. Now I'm here to ask you, members, if you would okay that.
All right. Actually, this is just for the proclamation right now, but as soon as we do these proclamations, that's the next thing on the agenda. So we will get to that
very much.
directly. So
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Steve Merrill. I'm a retired veteran from town here, and we would like the council to recognize and give us the proclamation for Monday, May 28th, to celebrate Memorial Day, celebrate all the fallen veterans that have come before us. Thank you.
all right, and then we have one more proclamation request from the Historic Preservation Month. Guess that's you, huh, Mark?
I'm missing my chairman. Mark Wicks, representing Historic Preservation Commission. May is National Historic Preservation Awareness Month, and we ask the council to adopt the proclamation that we submitted, recognizing us that.
Any questions of Mark?
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
So move for all three proclamations, Your Honor.
I would second.
Any further questions of anyone? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Motion passes, and I'll come down and we'll do each one individually then. All right. Whereas, that's loud. Whereas America is the land of freedom, preserved and protected willingly and freely by citizen soldiers, and whereas millions who have answered the call to arms have died on the field of battle, and whereas a nation at peace must be reminded of the price of war and the debt owed to those who have died in war, and whereas the red poppy has been designated as a symbol of sacrifice of lives in all wars, and whereas the American Legion Auxiliary has pledged to remind America annually of this debt through the distribution of this memorial flower, now therefore I, Dean Andrews, Mayor of Charles City, Iowa, do hereby proclaim Friday, May 25th, 2018 as Poppy Day in Charles City, and ask that all citizens pay tribute to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the name of freedom by wearing the memorial poppy on this day. In testimony whereof I hereunto subscribe my name this 21st day of May, 2018. And so we thank you for carrying on this tradition. The poppy has long been recognized as a remembrance of those who have lost their lives in honoring our country and protecting our freedom. So we're glad that you guys have continued that tradition to make that a constant reminder for us every year. So thank you very much. And this one is for the Memorial Day celebration. And it reads, whereas men and women of our armed forces have valiantly defended this great republic in many wars and conflicts to ensure our rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and whereas many of these brave men and women made the ultimate sacrifice and laid down their lives in the service of their country, and whereas all men and women who have defended our nation valiantly so that we, the citizens of the United States, do enjoy the freedoms granted by our Constitution, shall have their memories preserved for eternity. And whereas it is our intention to remember deceased friends and relatives that are dear to us, now therefore I, Dean Andrews, Mayor of Charles City, Iowa, do hereby proclaim Monday, May 28, 2018 as Memorial Day, and urge all our citizens of our community to take a few moments and to reflect upon the lives of the valiant men and women that have defended our nation and the lives of all of our dear friends and relatives. In testimony whereof, I hereunto subscribe my name this 21st day of May, 2018. So once again, just similar to what we said with the poppies, it's nice to at least take some time, although I think we remember every day of the year, but especially during this Memorial Day season, that we remember those who gave their lives so that we can enjoy the lives that we enjoy each and every day. So we thank you for having this ceremony, and I'll need to sign this one. You want me to read this that day also? Is that the plan? Okay, so I'll bring it with me when I come on on Memorial Day then. Okay, thank you. And for Historic Preservation Month, whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability, and whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds, and whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people, now therefore I, Dean Andrews, Mayor of Charles City, Iowa, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2018 as National Historic Preservation Month and call upon the citizens of Charles City, Iowa to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. In witness thereof, I have hereunto subscribed my name and caused the seal of the City of Charles City to be affixed this 21st day of May 2018. So in our society these days, we're always looking for what's new and bigger and better, but it's always nice to be reminded of where we came from too. And so I think the emphasis on historic preservation is something we need to always keep in mind, because if we don't preserve our history, we kind of forget where we've been and forget how to get to where we're going. So
This building's one that's already there.
yes. So thank you, Mark, for and I'll sign that one too, and I'll give this to you. So. All right, well, I only have one other thing under business of the, well, maybe two other things. Business of the mayor's appointing Jeff Marty to replace Brandy Mutch on the Broadband Commission. Brandy was appointed to that commission and had some family matters that she thought need to be attended to at this point more so. And so Jeff Marty, who is in IT at Zoetis, is expressed an interest in being on the Broadband Commission. I think he'll be a very good member. I visited with him, and he thought that would be something he'd be interested in doing. So I'd like to appoint Jeff Marty to the Broadband Commission at your approval.
I'd so move, Your Honor.
Second.
Any further questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Motion passes. And I guess this isn't really business of the mayor, but I did attend the interviews for the new superintendent today. They had 3 interviews and all very good candidates. So now the task is up to the school board to pick their candidates. So. Number 9 is the request for a partial street closure for Memorial Day event at the courthouse. And I think Art has already kind of filled us in on that one. I'm sure he would answer any questions of anybody that has anything. This is the southbound lane in front of the courthouse on Main Street. Any questions for Art?
This is the third year you've done this?
What year is this at the courthouse? What year is this that you've done this at the courthouse?
You've done this before?
It's been a few years.
Okay. I think about the second or third year, and it's worked out just fine.
Many years.
Okay.
I was going to ask Hugh, is that about right? It's no problems so far with it?
Probably done it for 6 or 7 years now.
Oh, really?
We've come to the council, I think, the last 2 or 3.
Okay.
Okay.
So move.
Second.
Any further questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is a request for street closures for the Charles City Barbecue Challenge, the July 4th events, and the Whitewater Challenge. Emily.
Hi. I'm here to request some street closures for our upcoming summer events. A lot of those are going to remain the same. So for Whitewater and Barbecue, we're closing the Hot Shots, or the lot behind City Hall is what it's formerly called. And it brings up as 700 Riverside Drive. And then for July 3rd and July 4th, we're requesting Kids Day closures and the Uncle Sam Jam closures. Something to note, and we've just worked this out with Police Chief Anderson, is that we're adding in a closure of North Jackson from Clark to Kelly, and Kelly from North Jackson to North Johnson, just because we're doing something different with the stage for the Uncle Sam Jam. We're in the process, or we're going to be contacting some business owners on those roads this week, just to make sure that they're okay with that closure. Basically what's happening is our stage is a little bit different, or a little bit bigger. We're doing some flatbed trailers, and it's going to block off that intersection of Kelly and Jackson. So we need to close off the streets 1 block past each direction.
It's similar to the way Ragbri, I think, was set up, Emily. Is that correct?
And that'll be just for the evening of July 3rd. So that's one thing of difference to know. Everything else will be very similar. This also covers the parade closures. So can I answer? Oh, sorry. You asked for questions.
Just real quick, it
Sure.
sounded like there's some places that have to be checked with yet. So
Yep.
as soon as those get all cleared, then we're good to go. Is that correct?
Yeah, she just has, with this, just a little logistical thing, we started talking about it today, and it's going to be a little bigger closure than she had anticipated because of the intersection being blocked. So
Sure.
she's aware that she is going to contact a few businesses, about 4 businesses, and talk to them. Just a clarification, not just for the evening, right, Emily? You're going to do it about noon?
Yes. So
About noon.
we
Okay.
need- we have a DJ coming in on that trailer that needs to start at 2. He starts playing at 2, but he needs to set up his stage a little bit earlier in the day. So we don't foresee any issues, but I'm going to check in with them this week anyway, just to make sure.
As long as the businesses get all checked with and you're good with it, Hugh, I'd so move.
Second.
Any further questions?
Looks like fun.
Yeah, it'll be a great time.
Call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Motion
luck.
approved. Yeah, thank you for all the things you guys are doing this summer here. Good. That's what we like.
Keeps you out of trouble.
Just going to include the firecracker and...
I think that's all
That's all
included
on
in
there,
there.
yep.
Yep, you bet. And I don't know if anybody had any questions on that, but if they did, they could ask it. But I think that's pretty much the same, yeah. So,
Yeah, that was, I just didn't read that, but that was on the agenda item, so.
All the events and the street closures are the same as the 4th of July.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. You mentioned it.
All right, moving on to a public hearing on the fiscal year 18 budget amendment. We'll open the hearing. We have a filing of affidavit of publication.
yes, Your Honor.
How about any written comments or objections?
None, Your Honor.
Do we have any oral comments or objections from the floor?
Move to close.
Second.
A motion to close the hearing. The clerk will read the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Hearing is closed, so next we will consider Resolution 6918, which is approving the fiscal year 18 budget amendment.
Going through the budget amendment, these have to be done by May 31st each year and certified to the state. The process is the same as the budget itself, where you have to do a public hearing. I've kind of listed out everything here, the revenues and the expenses. I try to be as accurate as I can, even though we have a couple months yet left in the fiscal year. But we worked with the department heads. They were very good at getting me the information on what they're looking to spend before the end of the fiscal year. The bulk of all of this, the changes that we're doing, the increases in the expenses, is due to the Charlie Western Bridge, which was an unforeseen thing that came up. Lots of water main breaks. Drawing a blank. I'm drawing a total blank. Here it is. Change in the timeline of some capital projects. Sometimes we think we're going to get them done the previous year and they get bumped to the next one and vice versa. RAGBRAI expenses was another chunk in there, and a bunch of tree damages from the storms last fall. So all of those together made us do a budget amendment. Some of this money, some of it's due to the wastewater plant expansion, which that money will be coming in as far as a loan after the fiscal year. So some of these expenses are going to be incurred this year. The money won't actually come in until next fiscal year. The total, it looks like we are going to be, the total budget after the amendment is going to be, the fund balance is going to be $12,656,901, and that's a change from $13,403,033 for the ending cash balance is what we're predicting, or estimating.
So the revenue adjustments are about $1.7 million up, and the total expenditures were about almost $2.5 million up.
Correct.
So our fund balance drops about $750 from what we had anticipated.
Correct.
So move.
Second.
Any further questions for Trudy? No, we'll let you call the roll.
Okay. Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Motion approved, and we can get that budget amendment filed then.
A bunch that's got to get done this week.
Next is a Resolution 70-18, which is approving a purchase agreement for Dorothy Parson property. Discussion?
Yeah, Dorothy Parson, she owns an irregular shaped piece of property at 401 Charles Street. And a portion of this property actually lies north of 9th Street Extended, and it's between the properties on the 300 block of Charles Street and the Charlie Western Trail. Now this property basically functions as an alley. It provides access to the water tower, to Mid-American's electric substation, as well as to those properties along Charles Street. But it's not a city alley, it's under private ownership. Also within this area is a 12-inch water main that runs from the water tower down to 9th Street, and we do not have a recorded easement for this water main. Now Dorothy Parson is in the process of selling her house there at 401 Charles Street, and she's agreed to enter into a separate purchase agreement with the city to convey that narrow piece of property north of 9th Street. and this would transfer it from private ownership to city-owned property, would assure the city to have access to the water tower and also resolve that issue with the water main placement. Now, the cost of acquiring the property, first it would be a purchase price of $5,000. We'd have some surveying costs to monument the place the property corners, as well as to create a plat of survey. That'd be $1,500 to $2,000, as well as some legal work for preparation of deed, title opinion, and transfer tax, and we're estimating that to be $300 to $350. So for the total cost would be approximately $7,000. So I would recommend approval of Resolution 70-18, approving the purchase agreement with Dorothy Parson.
Any questions for John?
It's, as John says, an ideal time to lock this up because she's selling and we need to have that access. So. I'd so move.
I'll second.
And a motion and a second. Have the clerk call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
I didn't get in there quite before the mayor called for the vote. That just comes out of general fund? For this?
For the
Paying for
purchase?
it?
Yeah, with that.
Yeah, probably general fund. We probably could even use some water funds if we really wanted to. That's for that purpose.
Kind of what I was wondering.
That would be approved.
So, might do a split, half water, half general fund maybe on that.
Okay. I didn't recall that we discussed that the other night when we talked
didn't,
about
but I
this.
was thinking about it.
We
I'm like,
did not,
you
yeah.
know.
Sorry, I didn't ask quick enough.
All right. Did we vote on that one?
Yes. Or, yeah, we did.
After you came in, I said, okay, so now did we vote or not? All right. Moving on. Consideration of a motion directing planning and zoning to consider right-of-way vacation.
Well, the owners of Bailey Nursery property, that's located west of Illinois Street at the end of Grove Street, they've contacted us requesting a part of Grove Street right-of-way be vacated. The portion of Grove Street that actually extends west of Sherman Creek, this area was actually platted in the original plat of Lane's Addition back in the 1860s, and they platted that section of Grove Street through the creek and continued it west of Sherman Creek. The property has never been used as a right-of-way, and it actually has been used as part of the nursery complex, and improvements have been constructed over it. Now, Bailey Nursery is in the process of marketing to sell the property, and they'd like to resolve this title issue and have the city vacate and convey the unused right-of-way to them. Now, this process the city has to vacate property is the city council first has to refer the matter to Planning and Zoning Commission for their study and for their recommendation. Once it's referred to them, they have 30 days to prepare that report, and then the process is completed through an ordinance with a public hearing. Public hearing. So I would recommend approval of the motion directing the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider the vacation of the Grove Street right-of-way.
Any questions for John on this one?
Do we have any water, sewer, or anything like that in that area that we need to be concerned about?
No, not in that area.
Okay. It just sounds like it makes sense to me.
Agreed. I would so move.
Second.
Now any further discussion? Sounds like both of these are just kind of clearing up things that we've kind of assumed for a long time and found out that the assumption was wrong, I guess. So, being no further discussion, clerk will call the roll.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
So this will be directed to the Planning and Zoning for their recommendation, and John, that's the next process.
Mm-hmm.
Next, consideration of Resolution 71-18, approving agreement with Dental Center for sump pump connection to the city's storm sewer. John, do you have comments on this one?
Sure. Well, the Dental Center, it's located at 703 North Main Street. They currently have a sump pump, and it discharges directly out onto the alley pavement. And Dr. Grimm, he stopped in to talk to me about checking on the procedure that would be required to. They would like to take that discharge and pipe it underground to part of the city's storm sewer system. And there is a existing intake north of the building in the city alley. Now, Brad, he's drafted an agreement, and I laid that out. There's an agreement. Each of you received it. Brad prepared that, and it's there's a attachment with that as well. The agreement addresses that the dental center would be responsible for placing it, as well as future maintenance, and it also releases the city from any liability related to any part of the city's storm sewer system. So I'd recommend approval of Resolution 7118, approving the agreement with the dental center. I'd also like to add that this is the same agreement that we also, when we had to hook up a sump pump with on the First Avenue project, we used a very similar agreement for that.
And we discussed this at the planning session last week. I'd so move.
Second.
Any further discussion?
How deep is this thing going to be buried, Jeff? Just curious.
Well, the intake is about 4 feet deep, so it'd be about 4 feet.
About
yeah.
4, okay, I just was curious, I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it just drains to the alley.
This
correct?
drains, yeah, on
To the surface, yeah.
and flows out slowly, yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of a hazard.
Any further questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Motion passes, and just for public information, this is connection to the storm sewer, not to the sanitary sewer, which is not an allowed use of your sump pump drainage to go into the some people, I think, you do that, but that's not legal. Storm sewer is okay, sanitary sewer not so okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. Consider Resolution 7218 approving preliminary plans and specs and setting date for public hearing on the 2018 wayfinding sign project. Discussion.
Well, this resolution approves the preliminary plans and specifications for this year's wayfinding project, and it sets the letting date for June 14th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the public hearing at the council meeting on June 18th. Last year, the City Council retained the Corbin Group to develop a wayfinding plan for the city. The plan includes a total of 4 gateway welcome signs, 30 vehicular guide signs, as well as 6 parking lot identification signs and information kiosks. Now, we've had conversations with the DOT, and 13 of the 30 guide signs are actually located in the DOT right-of-way of Highway 18 and Highway 14. And the DOT will fabricate and install the wayfinding signs within their right-of-way. And actually the posts that they will install, their maintenance department will install the signs, and the posts will be higher than the wayfinding signs so that we can put our logo placard, our topper, on top of those signs, so that all the wayfinding signs will have some continuity and look the same as far as the overall topper. The signs on the DOT right-of-way will follow their color requirements. The implementation of the wayfinding is one of our top goals this year, so I would recommend approval Resolution 7218, setting the letting and hearing dates and authorizing the clerk to publish the public notice.
Any questions for John?
John, what's the estimated cost of this section of this overall project?
We haven't refigured it with, because see, now 13 of those 30 signs, almost half the signs, are not our costs.
Right.
So that's going to be a significant reduction.
I was thinking the other night it was like 30-some thousand, right at 30,000 for this project before the state DOT came in.
No, it's more than 30,000.
Oh, I think it's closer to 90.
Yeah.
For the whole project, but this portion of it.
The whole project was
No, I
180.
think for the phase 1 and phase 2, well, the phase 1, which is all signage, I think we were closer to 90,000
Okay.
for all the signage, because we
Yeah.
budgeted over 2 fiscal years.
Okay.
But now with this reduction, we'll probably be closer around 45, 50, probably somewhere in there.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't maybe remember.
And also, the bid will also include different ad alternates. I mean, so that if the bids come in lower, we'll be able to do more. So we'll try to do as much as we can.
Okay. And the funding for this will come out of where?
A lot of it's road use tax.
Okay.
Well, it's been a long-term project, and I'm really excited to see us step up and take this one by the horn, so I would so move if that's where we are.
Second. And I agree. It's been kicked around for a long time here. It needs to get going.
And this particular segment is just the vehicular guide signs. We aren't talking about the kiosk signs or the welcome signs at this point. Is that correct?
Well, those will be in the bid as an alternate, an ad alternate.
They
that
will
if,
be.
If the prices come in, to our advantage, and we can add those in, we'll already have a bid price for them.
All right. Any further questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Motion approved. Next is consideration of Resolution 7418, approving the preliminary plans and specs and setting the date for a public hearing on the Hewlin Street Storm Sewer Replacement Project. Discussion on this one.
You skipped the HMA paving project.
Yeah.
Maybe right before that.
Oh, did I skip one? Oh, I put my arrow in the wrong place. Sorry. We better do 73 before we do 74, I guess. Approving the preliminary plans and specs and setting date of public hearing of the HMA paving project. Thanks, I have my arrow wrong.
You just see John getting all excited.
I know. When nobody was talking, I thought I must have done something wrong. So.
Yeah. Well, this resolution approves the preliminary plans and specifications for the asphalt paving project this year. It sets June 14th at 2 o'clock as the bid date and time, as well as the public hearing will be scheduled for the June 18th City Council meeting. Now, the HMA paving project will include placement of asphalt paving on Stony Point Road, Bunn Avenue, on 2nd Street west of Iowa Street, South Jackson, north of Court Street to the river. These are low-volume residential streets that have either previously been asphalted or some seal coat paving, and basically the existing surfacing is completely deteriorated and they're back to really a rock surface. And we'll take the existing base, mill that, reshape it, and place a 3-inch thickness of asphalt pavement on top of it. So I would recommend approval of Resolution 7318, setting the letting and hearing dates and authorizing the clerk to publish the notice.
Any questions on this one?
Now, especially on Bunn, is there enough subsurface there? I mean, that road, I'm surprised it's not dirt by now, but you're fairly confident that just the standard milling and layers will cover that?
Yes, and in fact, Well, last year we replaced the sanitary sewer, and when it was backfilled, actually it was Pop Excavating that did the underground work, and they had some asphalt millings, and when they brought the street surface back up, then they placed asphalt millings over the trench and compacted that in, and actually that compacted very well, and over the winter time it still looks good. And actually, so that's one of the reasons why we're including that, to put an asphalt mat over that to protect that.
Okay.
Do we have an estimate of the cost
Approximately $300,000
for all of these?
for all of it, yeah.
Okay. And that would come out of road use again? I
And,
assume.
well, and local cost.
Option.
Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed I was at the courthouse today, there's a little connection from that, what street is that one? Court Street? No, South Jackson. There's a little connection from South Jackson to the parking lot. Is that going to be included also? Look like about maybe a 10-foot section that kind of connects that street to the parking lot that was pretty much just gravel also. Is that part of this or not, or?
Well, no, actually, no, it's not. It's just the street within the, on South Jackson. We'll actually keep the curb and gutter and mill out the old paving. The driveway connection that you're talking about, that is actually a driveway that would serve the county courthouse. Because you're talking about that from...
I'm talking about right by the boat ramp. There's
Yeah.
a connection from the road to the parking lot.
Into the parking lot, yeah.
This says Jackson south of Gilbert. So you'd be on the other side of
Oh,
Gilbert.
no, it's south of Court. I mean, it's from the Court Street up to the river.
So that would be north of Court then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says here, work on curb and gutter work on South Jackson Street, south of Gilbert
Yeah,
Street.
it's South
okay,
Jackson
well, that's-
Street, but it's the
actually,
north
that's what-
side of South
Okay,
Jackson.
sorry, that was
North
what
side of Court.
we discussed about last Wednesday.
Oh, I see the other one, South Jackson Street, between Court and Cedar, sorry. They're both in there.
Yeah, they're both on South Jackson. It's just one is across the street from the courthouse on the south side.
So the one section we're talking about is from Court down to the boat ramp.
Yes, uh-huh.
And so that's where this little connection is to the parking lot. Will that, I mean, because otherwise we're going to have a nice asphalt street and a nice cement parking lot and 10 foot of gravel in between the two. Could that be part of this or
Or is that,
not? Or
or is that county?
But that's
Those are the
that's
county
really the
parking
driveway to the county
We can
county
probably work
parking
with
lot.
I was gonna say, have we talked to the county? Well, we got
so is
somebody
that
there
a county
doing
lot or
work.
a city lot?
County.
The county owns that
Yeah.
lot?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Would be good work for them to say, hey, we're doing this. If you want to improve this at the same time,
Yeah,
contractors here in town.
yeah.
Sure, I
Might
could
want-
talk to Gloria.
Might want to talk to them because that would be nice to, I think they would
Mhm.
appreciate
Yeah.
doing that, to
Oh,
have
yeah.
that little section done. It's not very much, so.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be tough to bid that little piece out, and at least with contractor here, maybe they can get them to do it while they're here.
Yeah. Okay. Any further discussions? Clerk will call the roll.
Has somebody made a
Motion.
motion? Did I miss that?
I would make a motion.
Second.
Maybe I was sleeping
We're,
there,
we're
sorry.
just trying to get out of here tonight, apparently.
I know, gosh, I'm half asleep already, sorry. Okay, yeah, let's call the roll.
Now we'll have the clerk call.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we'll have consideration of Resolution 7418 approving preliminary plans and specs and setting date for a public hearing on Hewlin Street Storm Sewer Replacement Project. It's kind of like deja vu, isn't it?
Yeah.
John, you have any discussion on this one?
Sure. Well, this resolution approves the Hewlin Street Storm Sewer Repair Project preliminary plans and specifications. Now, on this project, the letting will be scheduled for 2 o'clock July 12th, and the hearing will be at the July 16th City Council meeting. What this project involves, on Hewlin Street between Johnson and Jackson, there is an existing storm sewer that is on the verge of collapse, and we need to go in, remove the paving, and that's the permeable paving, replace the storm sewer, and replace the permeable pavers. This section was in 2010. This is when it was paved with permeable pavers. And we have done this on other projects where we actually remove the pavers and make underground improvements, and then the pavers just go back in, and we'll reuse the existing pavers. So I would recommend approval of Resolution 7418, setting the letting and hearing dates and authorizing the clerk to publish the notice.
Any questions on this one?
Cost on this, John, estimate?
I'll have to give that to you.
We talked about this at the planning meeting as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I move.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussions?
This come out of road use or, no, our sewer?
I would say
Storm
storm sewer.
Or storm sewer?
Storm sewer fund.
Storm sewer fund, okay.
And one of the side benefits of this one, with the permanent paving, the downtime, as we discussed the plan session, the downtime for this street should be far less than would be a standard concrete road. For having time to cure and everything should be significantly less.
That's true, yeah. Once it's backfilled and the pavers are put in, then it's opened to traffic.
Should be
And
good.
not only the downtime, but the expense is much less.
Yes.
Putting new pavers back in as opposed to concrete.
And
Or
cutting
not.
and everything, yeah.
And it looks nice.
Yeah.
Well, then one thing, you won't have that utility patch.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, any further questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Star.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we'll consider Resolution 7518, which is approving the preliminary plans and specs and setting date for public hearing on the lime residual removal project. Discussion.
Yes, on this project, the letting will also be on July 12th, and the public hearing will be scheduled for the City Council meeting on July 16th. Now, if you remember last year, the city contracted with CAM Excavating to clean out the South Lime Lagoon. There's actually two lime lagoons for the water treatment plant. There's a south and a north. And the south one was cleaned out last year, and actually the project was very successful. And we want to use the same process this year to clean out the North Lagoon. And we want to get the bidding documents out now so that we can get this under contract and allow the contractor time to work with the area farmers, so that when it's time that crops are out and the lime residual material can be applied, they'll be ready to go. So I'd recommend approval of Resolution 7518, setting the letting and hearing dates for the lime residual removal project.
Questions for John?
Is there any merit to trying to work eventually to get these things staggered out a little bit more, so you'd like do one year and the other one 3 or 4 or 5 years later, or something, just so you don't have all expense all at one time? And
Yes, actually, they had never been cleaned out,
Okay.
and we needed to do that last year. And we've been asked about this, but is there going to be more? And so we just thought this would be a good time to do this one. But then, yeah, as we move ahead, now we'll have room in the lagoons, and we can kind of stagger it then.
stagger it and kind of spread that expense out a little bit. And
We got such a good price from CAM for doing the first one. Before that changed too much, we wanted to get
Sure.
that second one.
No, I mean, it
done.
makes sense. I just was thinking it nice
Yeah,
to
well, now we'll be on an every year cycle. It'll just be a line item rather than some type of large capital expense.
And not to get too far off the reservation, but are we going to research that more to where we do something maybe with the existing lagoons to divide them up a little bit so that they can be totally cleaned out instead of just partially? I mean, at least, I think we should research it, at least get some estimates and
Yeah.
see what it would take to possibly do that.
That's going to be, that'd be a bigger project, so it'd be more of a,
Right.
Right,
But
capital
I mean,
improvement.
I think it would just be a good thing to research before it gets shelved and totally forgotten about.
Yeah.
So,
Till it fills again.
I'd so move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll on this one.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye. Motion approved. Next is consideration of Resolution 7618 approving a collective bargaining agreement between Teamsters Local Union 238 Police Department employees and the City of Charles City, Iowa. Discussion.
So this last December and into January, we had our negotiations with the Teamsters 238. At that time, we had 2 contracts. Due to legislative changes, the police department and public works contracts have been separated out. There are still things you can bargain for within the public safety departments, whether it be fire, police, things that you can't negotiate in the public works any longer. So those 2 were separated out. And so we reviewed this last, probably in January when we first had our tentative agreements, and in a large part they are the same as what we had then. We're looking at, for each one of these, we're looking at 3-year contracts. This will go into effect this July 1st. The wages, some of the highlights, I guess, the wages are fiscal year 19 a 2.5% increase, fiscal year 20 is a 2.75%, and fiscal year 21 is a 3% increase. The exception of that is this first one, the police contract, and that one has a first year of 1%, then 2.75%, then 3% the next 2 years. And that's because we negotiated in a 6th year step in with the police department. So currently, the way it was set up is that our officers would see a step raise each of the first 4 years, but there's nothing after that. So in trying to build that up and promote longevity, we skipped a 5th year and added a 6th year step. So with working that in, we just did the 1% on the first year increase. So that's in the police department only for the officers. We also removed the restriction on the half day for Christmas Eve. There was previously a restriction in there that was only Monday through Friday. So now it would count if it falls on the weekend as well. And then in the fire department, we did change the callback duration. So if a fire department gets called in, the minimum callback time is now 3 hours instead of 2. And that actually matches what we have in Public Works, what we have in the Police Department, which we changed 3 years ago. So those are some of the major changes, I guess you could say. There's a lot of other things that were, like dues deduction. We will no longer be deducting dues through the city payroll system. That was removed via the state legislative changes, so that's something we will no longer be doing. We cleaned up a bunch of stuff as far as the way the uniforms were listed, as far as what was issued. That was pretty out of date for both the police and Public Works, so we updated those. We changed some other things that were pretty minor, but just made some clarifications. So, like I said, we reviewed this in January, and so it's the only changes from that point to this point are there was no 6th step listed in the police investigator position, and that was added in. So whether it's a regular police or the person that's the investigator, they will have that six-year step. So that being said, it was a really good negotiating session. We worked through it fairly quickly, and I think we came to a good conclusion. So I asked council to pass each of these next 3 resolutions. They'll approve each of the collective bargaining agreements with the police, fire, and Public Works with Teamsters 238.
Any questions?
I assume our council representatives to the compensation committee have agreed with all of this and been involved in it along the way.
The compensation committee,
Don't we have a couple of people that are involved in that?
I'm
Personnel
not familiar.
committee.
Personnel committee? Yeah, sorry.
Jerry and I sit on that.
Trying to remember if we talked about that that time or not. I don't know that we did.
I guess I always thought that that was kind of part of those jobs. Sorry.
It could be, but it wasn't. I
Okay.
guess.
I'd so move for 7718.
Second.
We, 76.
76.
Excuse me, where was I at? Oh, excuse me,
You jump down to the next one.
7618, excuse me.
Motion and second for 76, which is the police department employees contract. Any
We get the
further
mayor rubbing
discussion?
off on me, sorry.
Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Star.
Aye.
Next is Resolution 7718, approving a collective bargaining agreement between Teamsters Local Union 238 Fire Department employees and the City of Charles City.
I so move.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion on that one? Steve explained it. Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Star.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have Resolution 7818, approving a collective bargaining agreement between Teamsters Local 238 Public Works employees and the City of Charles City, Iowa. Any discussion on this one?
So move.
Second.
Further questions? Steve covered this before. Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Star.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is Resolution 7918, which is approving a contract and bond for the Clark Street Trail Project. Discussion.
Well, the 2018 Clark Street Trail Extension Project, that was awarded to Heartland Asphalt at the May 7th council meeting. Their total bid was $102,396. Now, with our agreement with the DOT, the city will be reimbursed 80% of the construction costs out of federal Transportation Alternatives program funding. Now, this project will include grading and paving a 10-foot wide asphalt trail. This will be an extension of the trail from Terrace Road, and it will extend past the Allied subdivision, the Elks property, and there at Lakeshore Drive and Clark Street. It will also include ADA pedestrian ramps and signage. The ramps will be placed at the street corners. Now, since this is a federal aid project, it will also require DOT approval, so once the mayor signs the contracts, I'll send those to the DOT's Office of Contracts. They will sign it and then distribute them out to the contractor and the city. Now, this project will be constructed this summer. It's allotted 20 working days, and there's a late start date of August 5th. So once the contracts have been executed, we'll be able to establish, we'll be able to hold a pre-construction meeting. They'll be able to start anytime after that, but they have to start at least by August 5th. So I'd recommend approval of the contract and bond for the project.
Any questions for John?
Where's our 20% of the cost coming from? What fund?
We're using some general fund and actually some one-day borrowing funds to cover that 20% plus engineering.
Any further questions?
So move.
Second.
John, as you get up by Lake Shore, that's where that creek goes through there?
Yes.
Is there room for the trail there between the creek and the road?
There is, yeah. As we get past the Elks property, when getting closer to Lakeshore Drive, then we'll bring it closer to the street, to Clark Street. And as we cross over the existing culvert there, we'll be basically right at the back of curb. And then there'll be a ped ramp that will take it into onto Lakeshore Drive.
I just knew that was pretty narrow in that area there. But
And there'll be some fencing put up along the culvert, too.
okay, good.
Will there be anything between the trail and the street?
No.
Okay.
Just
Be 10 feet.
just
between
grass
the-
buffer zone like it is for the rest of the trail out there?
No, actually, it'll be at the street, then there'll be the curb, and then the asphalt trail.
So the trail's going to lay right on the
It'll be
curb.
close.
So,
As a tightwad Elks treasurer, the city will maintain this trail with snow.
We'll put snow on it, yeah.
I know you put snow on it, who's taking it off?
Well, we don't currently maintain our trails in the winter, do we?
Mm-hmm.
Not our
Yeah,
regular
but-
trails. We
That
don't.
one you do.
Do we maintain that trail that's currently existing up to the apartments?
Mhm.
Yeah, we have been, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it's not considered a sidewalk, it's a trail in the city. The abutting property owners won't be responsible for that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay, any further questions? Have our motion?
We do. Motion and second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Resolution 7918 passes. Do we have any miscellaneous correspondence tonight?
None, Your Honor.
How about a city attorney's report?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
City clerk report.
Our next planning session will be Tuesday, May 29th, due to Memorial Day. City Hall will be closed on Memorial Day, so everybody have a good holiday.
Well, that's a bummer.
You're going to miss me, I know.
Yeah.
City administrator report.
We're working on we're holding interviews for the foster grandparent director. That's ongoing right now, so that process is moving along nicely. We received, I think, about a total of 28 applications for the position. So that's moving along. We hope to have that filled and hopefully have somebody on board by the end of June here, hopefully June 18th. I would give that person a couple weeks to work with Mary before she goes on vacation for a couple weeks and then comes back and finishes up July 20th. So we're hoping to keep that process moving along, and things are looking good. So wastewater treatment plant, or the water reclamation recovery facility. Getting more information back on possible land acquisition, so I should have some information in my hands this week that help give us some direction on moving forward with that. If we can get that put together, we'll be able to hopefully keep our June, July bid timeline in place here to get that project off and running. AMR ambulance, I've got a phone call set up tomorrow with AMR corporate tomorrow to talk more about their request for a change in operational policy and funding request. So we'll be discussing that and then meeting again as the ambulance commission to talk through those details to see how that's going to be moving forward. That agreement is up this June. I'm sorry, it ends in July, so it begins August 1st. Kind of an odd thing there, but so we're working on moving that one forward. Transit system talks are continuing with Nyakog and Kevin Kramer. We did not have any entity that bid out or placed a bid in for doing the transit service, so we're looking at options on how to fulfill that service. It could be any combination of finding a private provider, working with NIAGOG for them to provide the service, or for the city to provide the service. So we're looking at options on how to maybe work in foster grandparents and their transit needs and the city transit needs to have one operating system, and trying to figure out the best way to do that. I think it's safe to say that we've been pretty lucky over the years of NIAG as far as having our private providers. In NIACOG's bid package, they've got about 4 or 5 counties and another 5 to 6 communities. We were the only ones left that had private providers doing that service. Most of them either worked with NIACOG providing the service, the city doing it, or the community or county working with an area group like ICOM Systems. So we're going to continue to work on that process and get that taken care of. But so we should be seeing a proposal coming here from NIACOG here in the near future to talk about that further. May 29th is our council workshop that's coming up. We're going to have our broadband commission come and give an update on the fiber to the home project. So it'll really be our first presentation to the council from the broadband commission, talking about that project and moving that forward, or at least having that discussion about moving that forward. We will have the broadband commission present. We will also have Eric Lampland, who did our feasibility study. He'll be present to give a short presentation, and we'll have Curtis Dean from Smart Source Consulting, who's another consultant we worked with that did our kind of our community outreach piece before the feasibility study to talk about the different options and going forward. So big project, very lots of details and lots of things we need to think about, but very important and something we need to seriously consider moving forward on. The last thing I wanted to mention was that just in reference to our new garbage and recycling program, I think things are working very well with that. Something I do want to share with the public, though, is there is a concern about people, residents getting the proper separation between the cans. There's a lot of homes that aren't getting that 4-foot separation between the garbage can and the recycling container. And so we're going to really work on promoting, getting that word out. I've got my radio spot this Wednesday, so I'll be talking about it then. We're also going to be talking about keeping the two things of the separation and the lids, make sure the lids are closed. So those are two things that Gendro is noticing as they're going about. And now that we're about 6 weeks into this already, everybody's kind of getting the feel for it, so we want to make sure we're getting that separation, because every time they have to stop and get out and separate them, that kind of, it slows them down, it slows the whole process down. So, if that continues, we'll be looking at a situation where the garbage won't get picked up unless it's separated out. So Alan's going to be working on making some tags that'll say 4-foot separation that will go on the container if they don't have that separation, with the idea of, the first time get a sticker to let them know about it. After that, they'll probably get a sticker and it won't get picked up. So just, so that moving forward, so everybody knows that we need to make sure we keep those things separated. So.
If you ask nicely, you might be able to use Hugh's Facebook page too.
Yes,
so.
How about that?
The thing is, unless people haven't seen how they pick those up, the reason for that is it's kind of like a big clamshell thing that grabs them from the side. That's why they need the 4 foot in between. Yep. And so they got room to get there.
Yeah, we plan on putting a notice kind of in the paper, hopefully with a picture that shows a good way of doing that out front. We've got a picture at City Hall that we've taped up to the desk up there, so when people come in, they can see a picture of it separated out, cardboard, glass, all that type of stuff that you can do to really help get that word out there.
May not hurt to get a picture of the truck actually going to pick one up. That might do about as much as anything.
You bet. That's all I have, Mayor.
I was at the landfill this morning, and Alan came through and basically said everything was going great and made a couple comments like you have, but I think even more important, I was in a business last week, 3 people there in that business, and they all jumped right on me and said, boy, we really like this tote system, that's working out good. So I think it's coming very well. It'll take a while to get it in.
Good to hear.
I was just going to mention one thing I mentioned the other night about the grass clippings in the street. I'm also noticing on the other side of that a whole lot of lawns that aren't getting mowed yet. There's some lawns that are 1.5 feet tall in spots. So
yeah, I know code enforcement was just talking about today that now that it's dried up some, they're going to be out making the rounds and
now the snow's gone.
Now the snow's gone.
Gee, Dillian, you want it both ways? First they can't cut it, now they're cutting it too much.
But I really do not get it. I mean,
I know what
Charles
you mean.
City, there's a lot of good communities around, and I just do not get people not having any respect for their own properties, other people's properties.
I agree.
Whatever. It's just stupid. We've got the codes. We just need to enforce them. I don't get it that we don't do it.
Giving you a bad time.
I know. But
Yep.
Okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, any other board or commission or committee reports today? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
so move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Hey, Steve, have you seen a notice about the batteries in these things? This afternoon I saw some of the battery recall.